Hello, we are here with my good pal Cooper. Hello.
Hello.
I'm basically, I already explained it in the part with Colby, but basically, what we're going to be doing is having a conversation about video game remakes, reboots, all that kind of fun stuff. And I'm going to be chopping it up and then putting parts of it into my big, long scripted video about video game reboots. But I'm also probably going to be taking these big conversations and then putting them into like their own separate video as well. So this entire conversation will be able to be listened to. So hello, Cooper. How are you?
Hello.
Good to see
I'm
you.
good. Yep. Good to be here.
Yes. So Cooper, you are a buddy of mine. We have been friends for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
and we like to discuss video games and all that fun jazz. And you have your own opinions on them.
Yep.
So in this video, I'm gonna be basically talking about three kind of like big reboots or like remakes. Technically, they are all remakes. Is I'm gonna be
Mm-hmm.
talking about Dead Space, which is getting remade. I'm gonna be talking about The Last of Us, which is getting remade, and talking about Resident Evil 4, which is getting remade.
Okay.
Um, Out of those three, which do you think is like do you have the most experience with?
The most experience with.
Sure.
I'd say Last of Us.
Okay.
I've played that countless times. I played on Grounded when that was first released on the
Mm-hmm.
PS3.
Mm-hmm.
Played that way, way, way too many times. I've actually got to the point where I was like, the story is so good and it works really well. I decided to show it to my parents at a
Mm-hmm.
point, and
Wow.
we got pretty far, and then they just kind of dipped, when
Wow.
they started getting into Game of Thrones. So, after that, it was kind of like, all
Yeah.
right, I guess I'll just finish the game again.
Right.
So, yes.
And yeah, The Last of Us is like a big story narrative driven game. And like the main takeaway from that game, it's not necessarily the gameplay, but it's mostly like the narrative because it's a very well written game that has a lot of like emotional depth to it
Yeah.
for those who are not familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of surprising about The Last of Us because, they they came out with, you know, Uncharted 3 like
Mm.
the year before, I believe.
Damn. Yeah, that's
And
true.
and what was interesting about it is that I was talking to a buddy of mine as well about it when it came out, and he's like, it's impressive because I thought that when Uncharted came out and then The Last of Us came out, obviously they both were worked on for years and years and years,
Right.
but you would think that they would be the same formula or the same
Mm.
type of combat and stuff. But no, they're completely different.
Very different.
And
I mean,
that
they
was
are still
yeah.
technically like third person over the shoulder shooters, but there are a lot of differences between the two. Like The
Right.
Last of Us, it has more of like I would even go as far as say like I mean, especially when you're interacting with the I don't remember the infected in The Last of Us, it's a lot more like stealthy. Whereas
Mhm.
Uncharted, you're typically going to go a little bit more
Yeah, guns
balls to the
blazing.
walls. Yeah,
It's more of a blockbuster hit rather than like
right,
a drama. Yeah.
right, for sure. So with The Last of Us, obviously the point of this video is talking about the remakes and such. What do you think is the reason why Naughty Dog decided to remake the first The Last of Us game?
Um, that's a good question because, a lot of people would say that the reason why is because um they there's a show coming out,
Mm,
and they kind of want it to keep it it's like a marketing tactic, right?
mm,
They want to make sure that this comes out right before they're starting promoting the show,
mm,
because they're gonna get new gamers and new people coming in, and yeah, so they want to do that. And I think another reason it's why is because The Last of Us 2
mm,
was controversial in its own way, but
right,
that's another story.
right.
Um, in a way, though, it was it kind of defined who Naughty Dog was in a way.
Mm,
Whereas I feel that The Last of Us was more of like when they first came out with The Last of Us, they were like, let's try this way
mm,
instead. And kind of were like testing it out, an experiment. And once they felt like they perfected in The Last of Us Part 2, and
mm,
they said, all right, this is kind of the way we're going. We've improved all the mechanics and everything like that.
mm.
Let's bring it back to the first one because everyone loved the first one and they want to kind of
Right,
like keep it the same looking in a
right.
way, you know? That's what I feel.
So you're kind of saying that like the first Last of Us was kind of like dipping your toe in the water,
Yeah.
and the Last of Us 2 kind of cemented like, hey, this is Naughty Dog now. Like this is the direction that we
Right.
are. Like we are Naughty Dog. We make games like The Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
So they want to kind of keep it synonymous with. They want to remake the first one to keep it synonymous with the second one.
Yeah.
Is what you're
Exactly.
basically saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
got
like
you.
someone can like yeah, someone could go into because it's now PS5,
Right.
part 2 is PS5. So they could just go, all right, let's play Last of Us 1 now. All right, let's go back to Last of Us 2. Oh,
Right.
we're just in time for the show now. So,
Right.
that's how I've the feeling, That's like a simple way of thinking about it,
Right.
but I'm sure there's other marketing tactics.
I would kind of agree with you. I mean, Colby and I already talked about this, but what we basically think too is like, especially because like, although it is not that long ago, like The Last of Us, the first Last of Us game came out 9 years
Hmm.
ago. It was remastered for the PS4 8 years ago. So
Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely like a while ago. Like I typically think of The Last of Us as a PS4 game, even though it was technically a PS3 game.
Yeah.
So it is a little funky to kind of see, like, especially with these other remakes that are coming out, like Resident Evil 4 or
Yeah.
Dead Space. Like that was it feels like such a short period of time, and like graphics necessarily from PS4 to PS5, it's going to be an interesting like I've seen some of the comparison shots between the two, and it's like me and like the rest of the internet are kind of just like they look the same, like they look very
Yeah.
similar. It's not going to be like that big of a difference between the two.
Yeah. Yeah. So right there is where I might have to disagree, but not like
Hmm.
not in a totally, a far off sense. But you know, um, I'm not saying that the new models, that's their direction, that's where they're
Right.
going, and they want to try to make it as real as possible. It's just I don't know, just something about Joel and The Last of Us Part 2
Hmm.
and this remake now. He looks more sad
He
and
does. That's
you
true.
know he's got like these puppy dog eyes
Right.
and
He looks older. Like I
he
know
looks
he's
older too. Yeah.
yeah, he looks older. I mean, obviously he's older in the first Last of Us game. I mean, we even get a time jump in the first Last of Us game where it's like I don't remember how long. It's 10 years, 15 years, something like
Yeah.
that. And then once you're playing as like normal Joel or whatever, he just seems older. But like when we
Mhm.
were playing The Last of Us Part 2, when we're getting the like you see the older Joel,
Yeah.
and then then you go back in time because you get the flashback sequences. And,
Yeah.
like he just doesn't seem that old, but like playing it in retrospect, especially with the new screenshots from The Last of Us Part 1, it's going to be yeah, he seems older from his PS4 counterpart.
Right. Right. And Tess looks
Hmm.
much older as well, which I kind of like. I get,
Hmm.
but like I also kind of like the Tess was like this badass girl, and she didn't like she didn't give a fuck about anybody. I don't know if we're supposed to swear. I'm
Yeah, it's
sorry,
fine.
but like she didn't care about you know like blah 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 and like about this whole world and whatnot. But I always felt like she was much younger than Joel was because I feel
Mm,
like Joel is like kind of like an old soul
agreed.
trying to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean?
He's
And
just
like
trying to
now
make his
this one,
way.
she looks much older,
Mm,
and
they look more like
and
compatriots now.
they yes exactly,
Hmm.
and but that's an interesting direction they went
Yeah.
for sure. So
Yeah, I mean, like,
but
the differences between the two, like Naughty Dog, like the official reason for Naughty Dog making this remake is that they want to make like the definitive edition of The Last of Us, because obviously it's this very beloved game, like one of the most important video games of history,
Yeah.
and they want to make this definitive edition because they want their game to be known like this instead of like the first Last of Us, which
Right.
is kind of interesting because like with video game preservation and like people who like to play older games, i.e. me,
Yeah.
it's interesting to say. It's kind of like, I wouldn't say necessarily erasing the first Last of Us, but it kind of feels that way.
Yeah. I I feel that the definitive edition of The Last of Us is I would say not this PS5. I would probably say that it was like the PS4 where they had like upgraded 60 frames per second,
Yep.
and but they maintained like the look and feel
Of the
of
first one.
the first one.
Right.
And that's where I was like, all right, so if you think of definitive edition, I think more of like you get it, you have a release of like a 2 generations ago PS3,
Right.
and then you go in and you say, all right, this is great, this is fantastic, but what if we can make it just a little bit better? And then
Mm.
they make it a little bit better with like mechanical wise, like
Right.
frames per second, performance enhancements and stuff.
Right.
That to me is more of like the definitive edition,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And sometimes originality is better than or more authentic
Mm-hmm.
than its remake counterpart or
Mm.
whatever, like its
Right.
remade counterpart.
Right.
Um,
So what do
yeah.
you think, like, if you're going to be calling like the PS4 version the like definitive edition, what do you think of what are your opinions on them making a PS5 remake?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense for them to do that. I just hope they just don't, I just pray that they don't do it for like, the next system and then the next
Oh,
system,
and they
like
keep
kind of like how,
remaking it.
yeah, kind of like how like, well, there's a difference between porting and then remastering, right? So like
Right.
what they're actually doing is they're actually putting effort into remaking their game.
Right.
Um,
They're taking the Last of Us Part 2 engine, and they're basically redoing the narrative from the first game.
right, exactly. So that's totally fine. Um, I'm not gonna say that I'm not impressed with what they're doing. I mean, they're basically building it, remaking it
From the
from
ground up.
from the ground up on just the PS5, and it's like that's really impressive. Although it's like for me, it's like I played it so many times, dude, and
Right.
and I'm
Right.
like, I'm not sure if I want a third edition
Mm-hmm.
of another game. Maybe when it goes on sale, but
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't think that this game should be the price of which it is,
70
which is
bucks.
is
Right.
$70. It's like, I mean, I listen, if any Naughty Dog developers listening out there, I'm sure they are. I feel that you are putting a lot of effort into this remake,
Mm-hmm.
and but I just I don't I feel like I'm not yet ready to play it again.
Mm.
And if I want to play it again, I could just download the remastered edition
Right.
on my PS5 anyway.
Mm.
So,
That's very fair.
yep.
I mean, I'm making this video because I felt the same way about
Hmm.
Dead Space. To kind of segue into Dead Space, Cooper, do you have any experience with Dead Space? I don't remember if we've ever
Yes.
talked about
Yes,
this.
I have somewhat experience for Dead Space. I mean, I played when it came out,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got too scared of it and then I stopped playing it. Well, no, actually it wasn't my game. It wasn't my copy. It was my friend's copy.
Mm-hmm.
So, I never really got a chance to play it. And
Mm-hmm.
then I've tried it a couple of times over and over again, and I just on various platforms. I
Right.
have it. I
Right.
just haven't finished it, but I'm excited for Callisto Protocol. and
Mm,
and
right.
but not too one day, Monday. Maybe we'll do a let's play of it.
Yeah,
That'd be
maybe.
fun. That'd be
Um,
fun.
so basically, Dead Space is currently being remade.
Hmm.
And when that got announced, I was like, I had the weirdest, basically, I had the weirdest experience because I was like, the Dead Space. I would go to say is like one of my favorite games of all time. Like I
Hmm.
fucking love Dead Space. The first one too, which is very weird because everybody fucking loves the second one, and I fucking love the second one. I think it's a great game.
Yeah.
But the first one specifically, it just like it's seared into my mind. I love the idea of like being trapped on the Ishimura, which is the ship from Dead Space,
Hmm.
and like there's these creatures that are coming after you, and like some of them like you can't even kill them, like they're literally stalking you. And I don't know, just the feeling of that game, I think is great. It's very like Alien, the movie Alien.
Yeah.
And so when the remake got announced, and of course, Dead Space 3 came out in 2013. So it's been 9 years since anything Dead Space has happened at all.
Right.
And it got announced, and the remake got announced. And I was like, okay. Like it just like it didn't do anything for me, which is very strange because like
Yeah.
um, I'm just like, it's the first game. It's like one of my favorite games of all time, and I
Hmm.
had the weirdest experience where I was just like, I don't know, like, fine, sure, okay,
Yeah.
um, because the first one is so accessible. It's on Steam, it's on Xbox, like you can easily go back and play it. It's on PS3 if you have one of those.
Yeah. Right.
Um, so that game is like I would go to far say like as accessibility goes, I would call it like a 70% because it's not on PlayStation platforms, it's not on like any Nintendo platforms, but like if you have a
No.
PC or if you have an Xbox, you can easily play it.
Yeah.
Um so I'm just like, okay, like they're doing a Dead Space remake. Personally, I think Dead Space is like one of the prettiest games of all time. It's a game from 2008, and it doesn't look like it aged like 2 years.
No.
Like it
No.
looks,
It is a gorgeous game.
it is
Yeah.
one of the prettiest games ever. Like, for those who have not played it, I don't know if I'm gonna put any gameplay footage in here at all or whatever, but there's no HUD. So literally all you see is gameplay, and it's one of the most interesting looking games. I don't know how they did it, but it still looks amazing, like atmospheric. It looks incredibly. It looks great, and it plays great. Very scary game, and yeah, remake got announced, and I'm just like, eh. What are your
Yeah.
opinions about the remake?
My opinions about the remake. I would say that there are a lot of people out there, a lot of gamers out there that probably don't have PlayStation 3
Hmm.
or a 360 or even an Xbox,
Right,
or a PC.
right,
They probably have, because PS4 is like one, probably if not like the highest grossing
yep.
or highest gaming product out there,
Hmm.
because it's like it's cheap. If you get a Slim, you get it cheap, and if you don't
two
have
hundred
that,
bucks.
it's like,
Right,
yeah, it's not bad at all. So it's
right,
like if you don't have that, um, then then you're SOL
right.
on Dead Space. Um, so I like that's the general sense of how I feel about all remakes of
Mm,
a game. All remakes of a game. It's like you got to think about those people that don't have those things, and they're like,
right.
yes, I'm excited. And then there's like, and then like experienced gamers like you and me who
Hmm.
have had, you know, I have my really reaching point. I have my Sega Genesis right here,
Yeah.
not plugged in. I have my PS2, my Wii U.
Right.
Like I
Same.
have stuff. Right,
Right.
exactly. So
Right.
we stuff. So like they're definitely like reaching new audiences,
Right.
and like they always say like what they always say that stupid thing. It says returning players and new players will
Mm,
now experience the new the
right.
all over again and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that they are putting a lot of effort into remaking just the first one,
Mm.
whereas you have seen people make or uh all the Crash Bandicoot games, all three of them. They've
Mm.
made they've made all the Spyro games. I
Right.
mean, I know those are completely different, but like
Mass Effect trilogy.
Mass Effect trilogy, I mean they remastered that.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't remake it. I think they just they just ported it into like
I think
later
they did
consoles
some
and stuff.
quality of life improvements and stuff too,
Did
though.
they?
I believe so. I
Probably.
could
Yeah.
be wrong about that, but
Yeah. You might be right. I mean, like again, it's just one of those things where it's like um when it comes to like yeah, that's the difference between porting and remastering, right? So it's
right.
just um so yeah, I think that Dead Space definitely could have had at least one and two in there. And
Mm.
then but I mean again, they're probably I don't know who's developing it. I know EA's publishing it obviously, but do you know who's developing it?
Oh no, I don't know off the top of my head. I could look it up, but I don't think I have my phone on me.
Because Visceral Games is gone, right?
Right.
They don't they either got merged, they got canceled or whatever, or not canceled, but they got shut down.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
so
the original Dead Space developer is no longer a company,
right,
I believe.
right, right.
That's
So
why the people
it's
went
just
on to make Callisto Protocol, which is coming out soon.
yeah, yeah, which I'm very excited for.
Mm.
So, uh, but as far as like if I had to choose between Callisto Protocol and Dead Space Remake, I'd definitely go for Callisto Protocol. I want
Right.
something new.
Right.
They obviously they said like, oh, when the remake we made it scarier for returning players so they know what they're getting themselves into. It's like, well, dude, nobody's been playing it in a while,
Right.
so it's
Right.
like, um, so you didn't really have to do that, but
Mm.
I mean, yeah, more power to you, I guess.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
um,
a big part of this video is going to be talking about like why remakes are made or whatever, because that's
mhm.
my big interest. Like, as you know, I made my senior thesis about movie remakes and like why they get made and why
Yeah,
people go out and see them or play them, whatever. And like,
right,
spoiler alert, it's because the name is the fucking thing.
right,
Like people go and find the name of something that they know, and then they're going to be playing that or
right,
watching it, whatever.
right,
Colby brought up a good point and said that EA is probably trying to gauge the interest of Dead Space. And so by remaking the first game, obviously they don't have to try and draft up a whole new story. I don't know if this is going to be put into a new engine or they're just giving it a new coat of paint or what, but supposedly they're remaking it from the ground up because like
mhm.
I saw some videos about them putting like making new sound effects and stuff like that and like
Yeah,
the theory behind the sound effect, which I find very interesting and I'm glad that kind of like care and passion is getting put into it. But like we all know why people make remakes is because they make money and
right,
like it's name recognition. They have a built-in audience, and that's just what's gonna happen. Like,
right,
um, so, um, what's going to make more money? I mean, Callisto Protocol, or the Dead Space remake? And like,
yeah.
I hate to say it, but it's probably going to be the Dead
Dead
Space
Space.
remake.
Yeah, no,
You
it
know,
makes sense. Yeah,
so it's very interesting, and I'm very excited for Callisto Protocol as well because obviously that's the original developer of Dead Space,
right,
and it's a similar like a tone and environment. It's like it's basically a spiritual successor to Dead Space,
right,
and
exactly.
yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see where Dead Space is going, but like I definitely get where Colby's going, or what Colby mentioned was that they're trying to gauge interest on Dead Space because like maybe they see that Dead Space 1 makes a lot of money and
Yeah,
it gets some pretty like high praise, and maybe they're going to remake Dead Space 2, and then maybe they try and fix 3 because 3 was not great.
yeah, right,
Um
right.
and then
But
see if they can go a new direction, see if they can make a new Dead Space or new character or whatever. put it in the same universe. I mean, like, I'm probably, yeah, I'm going to buy it because like it's going to be an updated remade Dead Space.
Yeah.
Like, it's the story that I like, and like I love Dead Space, so I want that to get supported. I want people to go out and play it, and I want new eyes on it because like as well, like um somebody there's probably somebody who played Dead Space in 2008, and that was like the last time they played it, and they haven't thought about
Hmm.
it in so long, and like,
Right.
hey, I want to go back and play that game that I played fucking 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it's sometimes it's good just to like re-experience a story or whatever that you haven't gone into in a long time. Like, I want to be in that environment. I want to be on the Ishimura again.
Right. Right. No, exact. No, it makes sense. I mean, like, what was just released last week was Portal and Portal 2 on the
Yeah.
Switch.
Yep.
And and you know, not a remake, not a
Right.
remaster, just a port.
Literally just ported
And
them.
they haven't, first of all, they haven't done it for a PS4. They haven't done it for any Xbox One. I don't know if you could play it on Xbox game. I'm not sure. I don't think so.
It's not
But
on Game
like
Pass, but you can play it on Xbox. You can buy it
you
on the
can,
Xbox.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but like, the current consoles, PlayStation and PS4, nope, can't play it.
Right.
So it's you know, Portal 2, Portal 1 and Portal 2 just being on a current
Handheld.
generation,
Yeah.
and it brought the nostalgia back, and I'm just like,
Right.
ah, my God, these characters, and
Right.
just bringing that back, it was a great feeling, and I'm excited to play it when I go to bed tonight.
Yeah, I
But
feel that.
yeah,
I've been
yeah,
playing that too, and it still holds up, man.
yeah,
Um,
it does.
but also going back
Yeah,
to
let's go back to Dead
right,
Space.
let's go
What?
back to
Yeah.
Dead Space. I also think that still holds up. I mean, I replayed it I think like 2 years ago, and it's still incredibly scary. It still looks beautiful. It still plays well.
Yeah. Yeah, you can seriously do the quote unquote definitive edition, as we talked about
Right,
before. Pump what in one pack of all
right,
three of them, and
right.
guarantee you probably get bigger sales than you
Yeah,
would than just doing the remake of the first one. I guarantee you.
yeah, I
And yeah,
agree.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's very interesting because, like, I don't know how well the first Dead Space game sold when it first came out, but like, clearly it's a big game, like,
Hmm.
that they made two other sequels to it. But it's interesting that they're putting this much resource into just the first game.
The first game, yeah,
Right.
exactly. I mean,
I don't know.
I have no idea. Yeah. But I will say that if you want to make a if you want to reboot, there's a remake, there's a remastered, and
Hmm.
there's a reboot. And if you want to reboot a franchise,
Hmm.
example God of War, if Dead
Hmm.
Space did that sort of treatment
Right.
of Isaac back
Right.
on, or like dealing with another threat or whatever. I'm not
Or
sure
just
how
set it in the
free
same
engine.
universe.
Exactly. Or like it doesn't have to be Isaac, it could be somebody else. And it's just
Exactly.
like,
Right.
it could be, like a female astronaut or something, and
Right.
just dealing with the exact same shit.
Right.
EA, doing it, and by a new solely dedicated developer to make these Dead Space games.
Right.
Boom. Huge sales.
Right.
Sometimes remakes and remasters are not necessary.
Mm.
So, and I think this Dead Space one is probably a good example of that.
Yeah, and I
Unfortunately.
mean, I kind of agree with that with The Last of Us as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you can play it already on PS4.
Yeah.
It's
And it
it's an
still looks
easy
good.
game.
It still looks
It's a
good. And
great
you
game.
don't, yeah, and it still looks good, and it performs really well, and you don't have to, yeah, you know. Sometimes I miss the the part where I'm actually playing a game and not
Mm,
like watching a movie because it
right.
looks so good, and
Yeah.
you're like, my God, you could just like be like, I'm playing a game.
Right.
That's what
The
I'm doing,
graphics are a little
you know.
jank enough to kind of like put you
Yeah,
at that
to be
mindset instead of like
right.
watching a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. So,
Okay.
so yeah.
All right. So the last game that I'm talking about in this video is Resident Evil 4.
Hmm.
Speaking of accessibility of games, you can play that on like a potato. Like you can
Oh my
literally
God.
play that on
Yes.
anything. It's ported on the Switch, PS4, PS5, PS3, PS2,
The Oculus.
Xbox 360, the Oculus. Colby said the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It's literally one of the most accessible games of all time, and they're
Yeah.
remaking it.
Yeah.
What are your opinions on this remake?
Well, I will say that I am going to get the fourth one.
Hmm.
I have tried getting into, you know, the fourth one on the PS4.
Hmm.
Try to do it. I think I have it on the PC.
Hmm.
I sure do. I have a huge library. Um, so I've tried to get into it, and I feel like a fresh coat of paint for
Hmm.
me, a fresh coat of paint with this would would go a long way. And I've played the second remastered one, and I played the a remake, and I played the
Three.
third one.
Yes.
Um, so and I wasn't a fan of the third one, but like that was a lot of people were the same way. It's just too
Right.
short, but
Right.
it played the same way
Hmm.
as the second one, so I was happy enough. So yeah, I'm excited for the fourth one.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I will personally get it and play it and have fun with it.
Mm.
So um I can finally say that hey, I played it.
Right.
However, this is a remaster. So, there's gonna be a lot of things that like there's a how do I explain it? There's a community, right? There's a community of the people that played every original before the remake, all of them. And now
Hmm.
you have this new group of people.
Hmm.
Does that still consider being playing the say like, "Oh, I played I played Resident Evil 4." Well, did you
Right.
play the remake or
But you
did you
played the
play
remake. Right.
did you play the original one?
Right.
And I feel that there is this, there's going to be people that are going to be like, "Oh, remember that part where it's like that? That was such bullshit, right?" It's like
Right.
I never experienced that. So
Right.
you're not, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Right.
apparently there's like a horrible quick time events in Resident Evil 4 and sometimes they're way too fast.
Mm.
I've seen gameplay of that. I've seen complaints about that.
Hmm.
I don't think we're going to experience that
In the new one.
in the new one, right?
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah, I
what are
mean
your thoughts?
that's kind of like a complaint across the board with like remakes. It's like, oh yeah, I played that game, but like, did you play that game because you played
Right.
like the better, new and improved one?
Right.
Which is not necessarily like a bad thing, but like when you have that degree of separation, because the first Resident Evil 4 came out, I don't know when, 2004, 2005,
Yeah.
and the new one's coming out in 2023. So that's like however long, I don't know, we're fucking old now.
Yeah.
So like, you have that degree of separation, and like on one hand, it's nice because you're getting like a more synonymous version of Resident Evil 4 that you can put with like Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil 2,
Yeah, right.
because they're very similar. They're over the shoulder third person games. You can shoot while you're walking around, like, because like in the original Resident Evil 4, you can't do that. You
Yeah.
have to stand
Yeah, you
still and
stand
shoot.
still, yeah.
And you have tank controls, and it's a
Right.
very interesting game because that's just the era. Because Resident Evil 4 is like one of the first games that was like that, because
Mhm.
it would literally define a generation.
Right.
Um, so it's gonna be nice to have a version that's synonymous with 2 and 3, because those have come out. They're wildly successful. Like Colby and I were talking about how this is like a Resident Evil like renaissance. Like there was 6 came out, and like there was like nothing, crickets. Like 6 was like basically I wouldn't call it a disaster, but it was a game that didn't do well. It was very divisive between fans. The movies were
Right.
coming out, they were bad.
Yeah, right.
And then 7 came out, and everything kind of opened up again. And then they remade 2, they remade 3. Resident Evil 8 came out, and they're all commercially uh, and they're received well.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of nice to have everything kind of be the same and keep them very similar, and like a full package is like, hey, Resident Evil fans, we hear you. We want you to have the best possible version of this story
Right.
because we know it's such a beloved story or a game or whatever, and we just want to improve it a little bit and make it the version that you want to go back and play.
Right. Right. And there's you know, going off of going off of that, there's some companies out there that, they would remaster a game
Mm-hmm.
and from the ground up, and they try to keep it as true to the original as possible, which
Mm-hmm.
I commend.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's I'm sure there's a game out there, and I cannot think of it, but I'm sure there's a game out there that they did something wrong, and oh yeah, they I mean it was like a modeling thing. It had no
Mm-hmm.
for the gameplay mechanic, but Demon Souls,
Mm.
um, they changed the look of one of the character or one of the
Right.
bosses,
Right.
Flame Lurker, and
Mm.
there was an uproar. There was an uproar. They
Oh,
were
okay.
like, no, 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 you can't do that. And they, thankfully, thank you, Blue Point, they switched it.
Mm.
And so it's like that company right there is like, we're trying to make it honestly
Mm-hmm.
as close to the original
Right.
as possible with the improvements and stuff. And
Right.
it's hard to do because it's like,
It is, yeah.
you know,
Especially in a
because you're
big
like,
like open game like Demon Souls, and like
right,
obviously it's going to be a lot more difficult to recreate a game like that than they are like Spyro or Crash, where like there are like little islands or whatever that you can basically recreate one to one,
right,
basically just make it look like it's a fresh coat of paint.
right.
And Demon Souls, like that game, there's so much that you have to do. Like you have to remaster or remake like all the moves. You have to remake all the outfits that you wear. You have to remake all the enemies. You have to remake
Yeah,
all the different little intricacies. And
right,
because that game is so like based on its gameplay rather than not necessarily just style, but style as well.
right, right, exactly.
Right.
So,
So like
uh,
a game like Demon Souls, or like what are some other like big remakes or whatever that you would prefer to go back to instead of playing the original? I'm assuming Demon Souls is probably one of them.
Demon Souls. I mean, Demon Souls the original Demon Souls and the Demon Souls remake, as as Blue Point tried to, you know, make it as true to the original as possible.
Mhm.
You go back to the first one and you make comparisons. They are totally different characters. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
it's like it's funny to see that, and it's like the quirkiness of the first one. I
Mhm.
mean, like you go around, it's like it feels cloudy. It feels like,
Mhm.
you don't know where the fuck you are. I'm like, where am I? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going. And that's what's so like great about the Demon Souls remake, but in or no, Demon Souls original, but the Demon Souls remake, it's like, I mean, obviously I played Demon Souls a lot, so
Mhm.
I knew where I was going.
Right.
And but it's just like it's very fluid, it's smooth and everything like that. And I just wish they fucking do that for Bloodborne. God damn it, Sony.
I
Just
know.
hurry the fuck up and do it, man.
I
I'm
know.
sorry. It's just like that's all you have to do. It's just make it 60 frames per second,
I
and
know.
then just port it onto, and then put it on PC if you want, and that'd be really
Apparently
nice.
that code is a
And
mess, and that's why it hasn't been remastered yet.
sure. Well, yeah, no, that makes sense. And like,
PS3 and PS4 code, like they did not give a fuck
yeah.
about any of that shit. Like they were just like, "Fuck it, we have to push it out." Like
Yeah.
that's why like Red Dead Redemption, that's why the first game won't get remade or remastered or ported to PC is because like that code is just bullshit, and
I
like nobody
heard
can go back
yeah.
to it.
I heard that there were and they were in talks of remaking the fourth Grand Theft Auto
Mm,
and Red Dead Redemption 1.
hmm
And
They
but
would need to do full remakes at this point.
after they found out that, or after the definitive edition
Mm,
of the
Three
Grand Theft
came out.
Auto series,
Yeah.
3, San Andreas, and Vice
Right.
City, they pulled the plug and they're like,
Oh, that's a bummer.
nope,
I mean that
not doing that again.
it makes sense that they
Yeah,
would. I would much rather a full on remake of Red Dead at this
yeah.
point because I mean that's a 360 game, man. Like it doesn't. I mean it still looks fine for what it is, but like you start to look
Yeah.
at those models, it almost looks more
Oh, dude, those horses have
stylized.
stick legs.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
It definitely looks
yeah.
more
It's real.
stylized than it
Yeah,
does than especially R2 does.
yeah. I wish a small team. Another game is I wish a small team at Naughty Dog were to remake, or just give it to someone else, give the code to someone else, but the Jack and Daxter series. I mean,
Mm,
that's a really beloved series. I've had that was one of the other games where I started the PS2,
mhm.
and I've tried to play it,
Mhm.
and I just my ADD went to somewhere else and
Yeah.
stuff. But I've heard those are like really great games as well.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I heard they have nothing like there was like a tweet or something. Someone of the developers or whoever owns Jack and Daxter now was like,
yeah,
"We're not doing anything with Jack and Daxter, just an FYI." I was like,
yeah,
"Cool, you don't really have to announce that, but that's fine. Sure,
yeah. That
whatever."
sounds good.
Yeah,
Thanks, bro. Thanks, bro.
yeah.
So, but yeah, and I'm trying to think of like other games that should be remastered.
Well, what's your
I
like
get
opinion? I wanted to ask like
yeah.
I mentioned the Spyro remakes before, and like
Hmm.
games like that, in my opinion, should be like if you're going to remake Spyro, especially a game that's like they're so small in scope, like that's a PS1 game. Like
Right.
you're basically going back to like polygons, like they don't look good. It's good that
Yeah.
they got a new coat of paint. Um, and in my opinion, I'm glad that they remade those one to one. Like you can like literally go frame accurate to like the exact same locations and stuff like that. It's
Right.
basically just like a fresh coat of paint on top of it. They did a similar thing too with like Halo, where they gave it a fresh coat of paint and they made it look like it's a more modern game or whatever.
Yeah. Crash
Um,
Bandicoot. Yeah. Yeah.
Crash as well.
Yeah.
So would you prefer games to be more one-to-one remakes, or would you prefer like if somebody like I'm sure the new Last of Us remake, I'm sure it's going to take some liberties from the first game because Neil Druckmann's kind of an asshole. Um, so would you prefer games to like take their own liberties, or would you prefer them to have them be more accurate to the original?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank you.
Because there are some games. It depends on the game, I guess. I
Right.
mean, there's a game if there's a game. All right, I'm going back to Demon Souls again. I'm sorry, but
That's
like
fine.
if there's like I know that some people were like, all right, so remember Dragon God when you're
Yes.
facing Dragon God and you have to
Yes.
walk and you have to shoot an arrow, he gets hurt,
Yes.
and you have to run across and then shoot
Yes.
another arrow again, and gets hurt and stuff like that. A lot of people had complaints about that,
Mhm.
including myself.
Mhm.
And in the first game, and a lot of people when they found out that it was being remade, they said, "What are you going to do about Dragon God?"
Mm.
And they said, "We want to keep it as true
To the original.
to the original as possible."
Right.
And that was like, "Okay, thanks. That's
Right.
fine." And like there was another thing where um they had the original game, if you go back into its files and stuff, they had um they had another world. They had
Mhm.
another archstone that you can go to, and it was a snowy area.
Mhm.
It was like a snowy plateau. And you go and um you face giants and stuff like that. It was called the mountains of giants and stuff.
Mhm.
And they said and they couldn't do it because the development crunch, and
Right.
they're like, oh well, let's just destroy we'll make it broken or whatever. We can't
Yeah.
develop it.
Right.
They asked again,
Mm.
would you want to do how about the the mountaintop of giants and stuff, and they said no. So those things would be absolutely amazing to have.
Mm-hmm.
And that development company, they also did something, and they also did it with what's it called? They did it with Demon Souls too, but they did something. It's a tiny little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Shadow of the Colossus, they collected coins.
Mm-hmm.
You would collect these coins, and you would go around the world and find these coins or whatever before you
Mm-hmm.
face the boss or whatever. And once you collected all of them, you would go to the part of the this big tower. You go to the base of it and open up a door. You
Mm-hmm.
open up the door and you go down. You find the sword, and that was like a really cool thing that they did. And in
Mm-hmm.
Demon Souls, it was like some kind of armor or whatever. You'd have to find a
Right.
coin,
Sure.
and then you'd have to go into fractured mode, which basically made the whole world reverse. So, whatever entrance you were, instead of on the right, it would be on the left.
It's like a mirror
It
mode.
was, yeah. So that those things are really cool to have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like as an overall thing, there's some things that you would want to change to please the audience. And I think those two
Right.
things about Dragon God and that new location could have been a great opportunity for
Mm.
them to make a very definitive Demon Souls.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what I would say. Last of Us, you can't really, like you said, you can't really, unless you make modes, like if you
Mm.
make a mode like fractured mode. Oh, is that Jill? Hey Jill.
Hello. Oh, hey, buddy.
Yeah, don't worry
Cute.
about it.
Oh, I wanted to ask about like, did you play the Shadow of the Colossus remake?
Yes, I have it, and
Yeah.
I want to replay it again.
Yeah, I do too. I played a little bit of it with Nick actually.
Mhm.
I think we were doing like a let's play of it or something like that. But I never had like um, I never played the original, so I didn't really have like the background. But
Yeah,
I know Bluepoint remade it, and Bluepoint is like a decent like developer. Like they
yeah,
remade Demon Souls, obviously, and I fucking love Demon Souls remake. I thought it was
yeah.
great. Um, I don't know what other games they remade. I know they remade Shadow of the Colossus. They remade Demon Souls. Was there anything else?
Trying to think, because I know there is another thing,
Yeah.
and I need to, let's see. Sorry.
No worries.
Uncharted Collection.
Oh, that's right. That is true.
That's what it was. And then
Yeah.
they did the Metal Gear Solid HD collection as well.
Oh, I
They've
actually
done a
have
lot.
that.
Yep. They've done like the classic HD stuff.
Got you.
So,
Yeah,
um
that makes sense.
oh, yeah, they also did All-Star Battle Royale. PlayStation All-Star Battle
Oh, and
Royale.
that's not a remake.
What the fuck?
That's
That's
weird.
that is weird. Anyway,
Yeah. But
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So talking about all these remakes, The Last
hmm
of Us, Resident Evil 4, Dead Space, which ones do you think you're more inclined to purchase? Not necessarily like day one, but like you're like more gung ho about.
Yeah, so number one would be Resident Evil 4. That's a
Hmm.
that's a day one thing. I know
Okay.
that. Um, and then I would say when they're on sale,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say probably Dead Space because I
Mm-hmm.
I actually want to like play it, beat it.
Right.
Um, and then The Last of Us at the end because I'm not spending 70 $80
Right.
on a game that I have twice.
Right. That's very fair.
Yeah.
So with like Resident Evil 4, what do you think it is about like it being remade that's like drawing you to that one most?
It has to do with the fact that it's weird to say, but it's played the same
Mm-hmm.
as 2 and 3. And
Okay.
if I got I understand the flow of that better
Right.
and the fresh code. Yeah,
Right.
that's the reason. Because if I went back after playing the
2 and 3.
new
Right.
the 2 and 3, if I went back to the original one, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like
Right.
this is bullshit. I
Right.
did this one time. So I would be considered the new
Mm-hmm.
era of Resident Evil games.
Yeah.
So
I think out of all of the games, that one probably needs the freshest coat of paint because like it is hard to go back to those tank controls. It's hard to go
It
back
is.
to like that kind of movement and stuff. Like it's going to be different, and especially like we were saying, like with 2 and 3 that are out. I mean, like good on Capcom for releasing the old ones. Like what people still obviously want to play them. I mean, like
Right.
I think every single Resident Evil is playable on Nintendo Switch, maybe besides 7 and 8. But like the fact that they're just like accessible, I think is like great. And the fact that they're willing to give them a fresh coat of paint and say like, hey, you can play the old ones if you want, or you can play these
Right.
new ones or whatever. Give us $60. And it's like, okay,
Right.
whatever. On
Exactly.
my way to go give Capcom money.
Yeah.
So
Was it the first Resident Evil, like didn't they wasn't that one of the first games to be remastered?
I mean, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean the Resident Evil 1 got a remaster. I don't
on
know
the
if it's
game?
technically a remake or a remaster, but yeah, for the
Yeah.
GameCube.
Yeah.
And I think PS2 maybe as well.
Yeah.
But like that that HD remaster or remake, like you can still play that on a PS4 and it still looks good. They like upres
Right.
the graphics, but that is like the definitive way to play the first Resident Evil. So,
Right. And but if they were to remake the first one
mm,
again,
right.
they wouldn't have the stupid door loading scene. You wouldn't
Right.
have to go save out of, it's like
Right.
all those things. And it's not, and also like I hate fixed camera
Mm,
on any game.
yeah.
I hate that.
Hmm.
Like, the Devil May Cry, if they did a Devil May Cry remake with the Devil May Cry 5 engine,
Mm, that'd be more willing to go back to.
I would go back to that. And then
Okay.
they could fix that line. You can insert it in the video later, but they could fix that line. I was the Dark Soul. What was the line? Oh shit. Uh, I was supposed to put your dark soul into light.
Yeah, it's something like that. I
Yeah, it's really
remember.
bad.
Yeah, I forgot
Yeah.
those games were fixed camera.
Oh yeah.
That's a big old
Big
oof
time.
to me.
Yeah, big old oof. And they did
Yeah.
that for like I forget now Okami. What was it called? Maybe Okami. I'm not sure. But yeah, they had a lot of fixed cameras
Mm.
in a lot of their Capcom games that I hated it so much.
It's hard to go back
So
to.
much.
Like I've tried multiple times to play the first Resident Evil game, and it's hard to go back to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, God of War was another game. The first one that
Yeah,
had fixed camera. It's like,
that's true.
dude.
It's
But
hard.
I
It's
guess that
hard.
was, yeah,
It
really
was
hard.
the easy way to do it and make it more of like a cinematic, like open-ish kind of game, you know.
Right. Right. Exactly. So,
Where else was I going to go? So I asked about why you would want to go back to Resident Evil.
mhm.
Um, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I pretty much got everything that I wanted out of you, Coop.
What about you? What are the games that out of those three games? What are you
Mm,
um
I
like in
mean,
that order?
I think still, it's kind of funny because like I would classify myself more as like a Dead Space slash The Last of Us fan, but I think out of all of those, I would be more inclined to play Resident Evil 4 out of all of them.
Yeah.
Even though I only played two, I only played like one campaign of two. I didn't even play Claire's campaign yet, but I really
Yeah.
liked it. I think it's a
Yeah.
great game, and like
Mhm.
Resident Evil 4 is clearly like the most popular one. Like everybody fucking loves Resident Evil 4. So
Right.
like I would say that I'm more inclined to go back and play that one and play the fresh coat of paint version because like Dead Space, they're not going to change up the gameplay that much. I can go back and play that at any time. The Last
Right.
of Us, like,
Exactly.
what the fuck are they going to change? Like, the graphics are going to look good, and like the load
They already
screens might be
they
gone.
already did. Yeah, they already did. What's it called? They
Right,
already did. The definitive. The remastered and you can play it on PS5, and you
right.
don't even have to have any load screens on there as well. So
Yeah,
I have no
right.
idea. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, I'm still excited, at least for Dead Space, because like I just think that gameplay is very fun. I like that story a lot. But like The Last of Us, man, I I want to replay them with Kira, and we like. Am I gonna wait for the remake, or am I just gonna be like, all right, fuck it, we're playing the old one and just play the original,
Right.
and then play two when it comes out? And like, do we really have to go back or pay $70 to play like the definitive edition?
Right.
And I mean, I'm probably going to buy it at some point, or it's probably going to be accessible because like I mean, the good thing about video games now is that they go on sale very regularly. I mean, like
Yeah.
the Steam summer sales kill me. Like literally every time.
I know.
It hasn't been it's been a little while, but like when oh man, when I first built a
Yeah.
PC, like I spent so much money.
When I first got a PC, I was like so like, deprived of games because I was
Hmm.
like only having like console games and stuff. And there was one game that came out and it was like, "The Forest's coming out on PS4. Not
Mm.
gonna tell you when." And I was
Yeah.
like, I was talking to my friend. I'm like, "I want to play The Forest, but I can't." And he's like, "You just get on PC." And I'm like, "Fuck it, I'm getting a PC." And I
Yeah.
got a PC, and now I have how many games?
Jill's about to yell at you.
769 games on Steam. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God,
I
Cooper.
need I need one more, and I'm 770. Yeah. There's a sale going on right now.
I'll gift you a game. Don't worry. I'll get
Okay.
you Rounds. Have you played that game? It's good.
What rounds? What's it
Yeah,
called?
it's kind
Do
of
you
like
have it?
I do. Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of like Stick Fight, but it's a little bit more in depth.
I'll have to play it. Oh, that looks so fun.
It's pretty fun. My buddy Danny showed it to me. Um,
Yeah. We'll
so
play we'll play this later. That'd be
yeah,
fun.
we'll play it. So yeah, I kind of agree with Resident Evil 4. I mean, like I really liked Resident Evil 2. I want to go back and play it, and
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll play 3 at some point when it's like $15. And when
Yeah.
RE4 comes out, I don't know if I'm gonna get a day one, but I think that's the one that I'm most interested in playing.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
What about you, Jill? What remastered? Okay. All right, you're unplugged, Jimmy. So now
Okay.
Jill can hear your answer.
So my question is, would you rather play a remake of The Last of Us, Resident Evil 4, or Dead Space?
Unsure about Dead Space.
Mm,
Never played it.
yeah.
That's what I mean by unsure. Remastered.
So you know what a remaster is,
Yeah,
right?
like they it's like when it's like they redo the Disney movies kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, very similar.
That's
Yes,
pretty much it.
correct.
Built it from the ground up. Yes.
Yes.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm biased because I was shown, I'm not going to say any names, I was shown these different cartoon, animations
Hmm.
of the guy, the main character, the guy who gets killed.
Talking about The Last of Us, by the way.
Right.
And how and he's like, well, which one do you like? And then
I told her which one. Yeah. Yeah.
And you say the animation looked better, and so
The look and feel. I said the look and feel looked. The animation's probably going to be so much better in the remake,
Right.
but the look and feel of the first one was like of Last of Us was grittier and
right.
so.
Fair. Very fair.
Yep. There she goes.
Yeah.
There's my boo. Oh, we got. I'm probably have to show her Dead Space now.
Yeah. Dead Space
'Cause
is great. It's a fantastic game.
that way I give my final answer.
I have it. I'll install it right now. Isn't that great? I have one. Oh, I don't have 3. Oh, I can have it on Xbox though.
Mm.
Is this gonna be your 770?
No. This is part of my 706.
I was like high key excited when they added Dead Space 3 onto Steam, even though it's not a good game. And I don't know why that I'm like that, but I was like, oh, I get to replay this shitty game. Colby and I actually played it a little bit.
Oh, it's $5 though,
Probably. Right now?
dude.
Dead Space 3?
Yes,
Buy it.
This is my 770, boo.
Here we go.
This is
Now
my
we can play
770.
it. Yeah. Nice. Well, with that in mind, Cooper buying Dead Space 3. Coop, I really appreciate this conversation that we had, man.
Appreciate you inviting me to your yeah.
My big ol' fucking remake video. That's the current title is big fucking remake video.
Big fucking remake. I love it.
Yeah. So thank you, Cooper, and thank you, Jill, for guesting as well, and thank you, Milo, for being here.
Milo. Don't forget about Milo.
Of course.
Hey, Bubbles. He's a good boy.
And we'll sit and talk about more video games because I'm probably going to be making more videos like this because it is
I
a
love
fuck
it.
ton of
I'm
fun.
so down.
Yeah.
So keep me posted and keep Jill posted too, because you could make a new video like convincing your convincing your girlfriend / fiance
Yeah.
to play some freaking games with you.
Yup, for sure.
Explanations.
Yes.
Kira and I are planning on being a streaming couple soon, so that's gonna be fun.
Oh, this will be so good.
It's gonna be very fun, but probably very bad.
I love it.
All right. Well, thank you for
Alrighty.
watching this, and we'll catch you around the flippity floppity.
That sounds good.